Um, I guess the Manchester story, which you may broadly be familiar with, and Sue may have covered some of this yesterday. I think you've got to really understand the Manchester story to be able to get a very clear and deep understanding about where we are today. Manchester was, in the 50s and 60s, the northern powerhouse. Actually, it was the centre for production and manufacturing. Where we are now, actually, was a series of coal mines and steel production facilities. And like we're reading about in parts of China and indeed parts of Wales and other parts of the UK, as they're actually finding difficulties in adapting their particular sectors to meet the global demands, shall we say, of the marketplace. Manchester suffered very, very badly when those global demands changed and left, quite frankly, a swathe of industrial dereliction as industry had effectively withdrawn, not just from Manchester, but from large parts of Europe and was repatriated in the Far East. And we struggled with that process of adaptation. In fact, we didn't adapt at all for many, many years. And Manchester at that time was characterised by not just industrial dereliction, but a reducing population. In fact, people, as they entered work, the first thing they did was move out of Manchester. So my generation really started to rethink what the role of the city should be, what our assets were, how do we create a place where people want to live, exercise positive choice to want to live, how do you create a place which is attractive to business, and very particularly, how do we deepen and widen and diversify our business space, and also how we actually create places where people want to visit. And our strategy is very simply, over the last 20, 30 years, founded on those basic principles. So where our assets are concerned, we looked at university, centres of excellence. How do we actually develop very, very strong world-class centres of excellence which can help us develop higher order sectors of activity? And some of the things we did at that time was put two universities together, what is now Manchester University, in order to create a platform for achieving that excellence. Building on our airport, which is the key to connecting Manchester to the wider international marketplace, was a very, very important part of our overall strategy. Looking at how we develop commercial and professional services was an important part of our strategy. Driving our retail and visitor infrastructure was an important part of our strategy. And also uniquely, in my view, of all the cities, with the exception of one in Europe, actually placing sport and culture at the heart of our regeneration strategy as well. The exception to that was Barcelona. Barcelona in the late 80s, I spent a lot of time in Barcelona. I was a member of the Olympic bid group. I was responsible for the technical bid for Manchester's Olympic bid at the time, and I spent a lot of time with Pascal Maragall, who was the mayor of Barcelona in the late 80s, as they were preparing for the 1992 Olympic Games. And what that experience taught me was two or three things really. One is you've got to have a broad vision for a city. You've got to have a broad vision for a place. It needed to be 20 years or more, because you will have at different stages in that time frame the opportunity to implement that overall vision. So when the Olympics became an opportunity for Barcelona, they were able, on the back of the Olympic programme, to do in 4 and 5 years what otherwise would have taken them 15 to 20 years. I learnt that. Secondly, I also learnt that when you're looking at sport and culture, don't look at it for the period of 3 weeks for the games period. What you had to do is look at not in terms of what's built for the games, you needed to look about what was going to be operated after the games. So we saw arenas and stadiums on the top of a mountain in Montjuic. If you come to Manchester, you will see a stadium on the top of a coal mine. You will also see an arena on top of a railway station. So what we did very, very clearly was think of all the places where could we use that significant public investment in order to drive the maximum economic leverage from that investment. Not the easiest site, not a greenfield site in the middle of the city centre. Where would we be able to maximise the leverage? Where would we be able, on the back of that investment, to create the best possible platform for rejuvenating entire parts of a city? And the third big lesson we learned was the importance of civic leadership, the absolute criticality of having not just a clear vision, but also having a collaborative approach around the delivery of that vision, involving all sections of the community, particularly business. That was the boss. That's what I learned in the mid to late 80s by working in Barcelona, which I did for several months. And when I came back, I worked with the leader and successive leaders at that time, with my colleagues, in order to ensure that the lessons we learned were actually became ingrained. What is now the Manchester approach? We varied that broad experience to actually make it more relevant to Manchester. But today, you will go and look at any place in the world. What you will see, certainly in Manchester, is a very, very distinctive vision about what sort of city we want to be over the next 20 years. We regularly refresh those strategies every 5 years. You will see a very, very clear analysis about what our priorities are at different stages of the programme. You will also see a very, very clear, open approach around collaboration with different parts of the Manchester community, particularly business. Nowhere else in England, in my view, has business the capability to shape or to participate in the shaping of our strategy than they do in Manchester. No other part of the UK will you see business leaders actually taking active responsibilities for the delivery of some of our key economic development functions, which we have consolidated around a single economic geography called Greater Manchester, with many of our business leaders leading and overseeing the delivery of our trade, investment, marketing and economic intelligence functions. The Manchester story has received, over certainly the last 2 or 3 years, even greater prominence through the whole devolution debate and what the Northern Powerhouse actually means. If you would have heard me or any of my contemporaries speak at any time over the last 20 years, we might not have called it the Northern Powerhouse, but I can assure you the overall strategy, which is embodied within the Northern Powerhouse approach, has been something we've been articulating the requirement for a very, very long time. What it is, basically, is if you have city regions, whether it's Liverpool, Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds, or indeed Newcastle, if they are better connected, if we are able to drive a very, very clear focus about key sectors, distinctive key sectors, like life sciences, like advanced manufacturing, digital, healthcare, all those sectors where Manchester, as well as some of our friends and colleagues in other parts of the north of England, are very, very clearly in the lead, certainly in the UK, and have real opportunities for international trading patterns, then you start to make labour markets more productive because they're better connected. You start to actually see agglomeration of economic activity take place, which means more jobs and means more investment. And what you see when you look at those city regions taken as a whole, you look at a much stronger, a much deeper competitive platform, which is going to be so important over the next decade as Northeast, as Asia and North America become more economically dominant, and Europe is actually going to reduce in economic influential terms going forward. So this is really an economic competitiveness agenda for Northern Powerhouse. And as we become more and more successful, the requirement will be, rightly so too, about how we equip people who live in places like Manchester with the right level of support in order to ensure that they can benefit from the fruits of success. And that's where devolution comes in. We've got lots of people who are not maximising their life chances. We've got lots of people who live in Manchester and other parts of Greater Manchester, or indeed other big cities, who are not actually playing their fullest part in the success, the economic success of cities. And therefore, local authorities working in collaboration through combined authorities, in the case of Greater Manchester, is absolutely key in ensuring that we have greater powers, greater capacity to influence the way in which public services are provided to support those people, not only to help themselves, but to play a very full and active part in the local economy. What that means is that we're talking more about skills, how we actually equip people with the skills they need for the jobs we are creating. It means the way they access health and social care services, which give them the right support at the time they need it, how we actually encourage people to be good parents, how we encourage people to be good citizens, how we encourage people to play a very full and active part in their communities or indeed their wider society. So that's what the devolution debate means for us. And over the last 18 months, we've seen quite significant changes in the constitutional relationship between central government and local government in Manchester, which has been very, very welcome. But that will count for very little unless we use those new relationships, those new powers, as new platforms to provide new ways of re-energising and renewing the relationship between local government and their communities as well. And that's very much the debate which is currently taking place within Manchester about how we start to articulate a clearer relationship between the people who live here, which is not just about what we're going to do for you in terms of providing better and more relevant public services which meet your needs, but it's also about what you're going to do for yourself in order to support better, more independence and to support your life chances and the people you live with and you care for. So that's the overall Manchester strategy. Thankfully, it seems to be working. We've come a long way over the last 20 years. Probably now enjoy a platform for growth, which is unprecedented, certainly in our lifetimes and certainly for a few generations. And what we have to do increasingly now is continue to work very, very hard, continue to do all the things I've said to do, and if we can do that over the next 10 years, the only question will be is how successful will Manchester become. Thank you very much indeed.